Now then, and welcome back to another episode of Stoneblock 2 on the NemGo server. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I've got googly eyes again. It's great having googly eyes. Yes, it is, absolutely. So I have been away for a little while working on another project, another Minecraft project, which I will reveal soon enough in another episode. The last episode we did on Stoneblock was a good few days ago. 4 or 5 days ago now. Possibly almost a week by the time this episode goes out. And we did this mob farm. At the moment, I'm just running the mob farm with withers, just so that I get wither skulls. We occasionally get other things spawn inside the dark room as well, and it kills them. But I've set it up so that this is always receiving all the items, putting all of the XP into the tank, and putting all the items into this ender chest. And then this ender chest goes down. Oh, let's go down to it. Yep. Not into the experience room. I've got it so I set up so I can kill stuff here and then go down into the enchanting area and do some enchanting. But down one more is where all the mob drops are currently being stored. Now I say currently because this is not my be-all and end-all. This is just a temporary storage just so I can run the thing. We've got that ender chest linked down here. It is storing what it can into one of these Yabba barrels, because it can store all these kind of bits and pieces in the Yabba barrel. I'm potentially just going to put a hopper on the end of this and stick it into a trash can. But with all the EMC that I would potentially be throwing away here, it's probably going to end up just stacking up in here and then filtering out into an EMC creation system. Meanwhile, everything else goes into this system, the item barrels of Yabba, and we're getting up a stock as a stack and a bit of wither skeleton skulls. And I've only put this on just recently as well. And all the other bits and pieces, including blizzards, which we're going to be needing in today's episode. So, I'm going to quickly change that, because I don't need to do wither skulls today. I'm going to do with blizzes instead. I need some cryotheum blizz. That one. I'm going to need some cryotheum made up, so I'm going to need to be able to do this properly. Let's go down here. There we go. I've started using trapdoors as well. Trapdoors seems to be the most efficient. The most efficient way of not getting caught out by this. And I could also jump out like this, you see. There you go. And they can't spawn within the trapdoors, so they can't get into there. It's the most likely to succeed method, I believe. Now, I also can't be in range of them, because if they aggro, they start floating up away from what's killing them. So that's no good either, is it? But if I can come over the top this side, and down this side, and I can get up and over, thank you, and turn the farm on, should start insta-killing them a little bit better, and then throw all this stuff away. Now, we need all those blue ones a bit later on, so that's a good thing, yeah? And we have a lot of mob farm juice going on in here. Even though I'm using a lot of it up now, I did actually generate a ton of it a little while back. I nearly broke the server as well while I was doing it, right? So we'd best go and discuss this first of all, right? Let's go down here, up, and into here. Okay, so on this side of things, I planned on having a little mob generation system. Just a dark room, a dark farm, right? So a dark farm, mobs fall down into the lower area and get killed by the mob grinder, right? That was the plan. That was the plan. And then I had many stacks of fans all set up. You can see that they reach all the way up there, and dirt on every level. So the fans, they have a large area of effect. Let's show area. Right, the fans have a large area of effect that were blowing everything off the edge into this water from above, so they wouldn't die in the water, they would land in the water safely from above. And then this mob crusher, which has a large area, would kill anything in this zone, you see. That was the plan, right? So all those fans are set up in the same exact way, blowing anything off and into here. And then I set it up with cursed earth in between all the layers. Cursed earth in between all the layers. And the amount of mobs spawning was ridiculous. The amount of mobs spawning, if I was going for a competition of how many mobs to spawn, it would have been amazing victory Nemsun. But instead, the amount of mobs spawning and the amount of drops on the floor, because this thing was killing them all, but this little thing here, an item collector, wasn't putting stuff in the chest fast enough, it was lagging out, and I ended up having to come and just like get rid of all the cursed earth all the way down. Now, obviously, I need to do something about that before I set this up again. I need some kind of light source, so I'm thinking of putting light emitters all the way down here from underneath each one that'll light the surface area to stop mobs from spawning on the cursed earth, so I can turn the farm off when I want to, right? Otherwise, I'm in a problem area. I've dug all this out, all the way down to virtually bedrock, and it's set up, all ready to kill all the mobs, and I could probably just set it up so that random spawns would get blown off and killed, and start using that to generate mob essence to put in my tank. Yeah, this is just set up to put items one way and essence the other way, and I need a power supply. Another thing that I found was as soon as the power supply ran out for the mob farm, the mob grinder itself, this thing here, once the mob crusher ran out of power, I couldn't kill the mobs, so they all just started sitting there, and that made it even worse. So I tried to get power into it, and that didn't prove successful. I had to put another power cell down here that was charged up and to make that jump into action to kill the remaining mobs. Put another barrel up here with a tank and another item collector into a trash can. Oh, it was great fun, and it was the end of a recording session, so I didn't really want to do much after that. It was already late in the day, and I had to fix that before I logged off, otherwise I would have been very bad server player. So anyway, that leads me to what we're going to do today's episode, right? So we're going to be looking at Extreme Reactors. Extreme Reactors is the legacy of big reactors from 1.7.10. And as far as I'm aware, it is one of the very best power creation mods in the modded Minecraft community. It is nice and simple to use, user-friendly, you can't really go wrong with it, and it can be amazing. You can do over the top though, and this is what we're going to discuss today, not going too far over the top. So the core component is a reactor casing. A reactor casing requires graphite bars and this casing cores. Now casing cores require some more graphite bars and some iron and gold and all that. So let's deal with graphite bars. Graphite bars can be grown in this pack, which is good. Chickens can lay it in this pack as well. We can also, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the only two ways to get it. But we can also cook coal into graphite and charcoal into graphite. And of course, graphite dust back into bars. So now we're going to need a lot of this reactor casing core. So we'll put that in. And I'll just make a stack because I'm probably going to use less than a stack. But I've got a stack in case. We're going to need lots of reactor casings, which again require lots of these graphite bars. So each one makes 4, so we can make a good stack amount there. Let's make a stack of those as well. Okay, and then we've got some more bits and pieces that we're going to need as well. So every single reactor is going to need a controller. A reactor controller requires some of the casings and some uranium ingots. I believe I've already cooked some uranium, yeah, so we can have a reactor casing into the controller. That's good. And then we're going to need a controller rod tap. So a control rod will basically look after things from the top of the reactor. And we're going to need a fuel rod, which is going to be controlled by the controller. Yeah. And that is simply graphite with uranium and iron again as well. So we're going to build this downstairs where we've got the current lava power generation system. This old thing that's been powering the whole base for many moons is still looking like its levels are low. It can't quite keep up with the system. It is keeping up at the end here. All of these together push power towards the end here to keep that side going, and all of it goes this way to keep that side going, and somehow it's managing it. But the more demands I make of it, the sooner it runs out. So we need to have a solution, and in this area we are going to have it. Now, the basic reactor, let's just go through this first. A basic reactor requires a 3x3x3 area. We're going to have a reactor core inside. We're going to have a controller on the front, let's say, and we're going to need a control rod on the top. And we should, by rights, have at least one port, access port. Let's see if I can make one. Yeah. One access port. Now, the access port is for putting in the fuel in one slot, and out will be here. So it's a good idea to have a second one, right? And we're going to have a second one because automation is key to everything. Yeah, so we'll have a second one. And we'll put that second one on this side, and then that can be an output as opposed to be input. So we've got an input and an output, right? And then pretty much the rest of it, we don't need any glass whatsoever. We just need to put casing around the rest of it. And so long as we've got all of those components, we should have a multi-block structure. There we go, multi-block structure. That has everything in it that we need. So the fuel supply goes in here, like so, right? And it will take the fuel supply and it'll put it into the rod, into the core, and then that core's there. Without any fuel, without any coolant or anything, it's just going to generate 661 RF per tick, right? So it quite quickly makes some RF per tick. And that is all you need as a basic controller, right? The more you can cool down the reactor's core, the better efficiency you're going to get. The more control rods you put up, higher up you make it, the more power it's going to make. So we can generate more power by sending it up, and we can generate more efficiency by making it wide. So I want a bit of a mixture of the two. And there's no really right or wrong way of doing this. As long as you do what you need to actually do to make a reactor, there's no really right or wrong way. So I'm going to set something up that possibly many people in the comments are going to go, oh, that's not the way I would do it. And yeah, that's probably right. It probably is not the way that you would do it, but it appears to be the most efficient, to my mind, way of doing things. Okay, so now here is where it gets interesting and where opinions may be divided. This is the size of the place, right? So I've got an AE system up there. I'm bringing stuff down. I'm going to put in and receive out the fuel and the waste. Easy enough sorted. You understand? Got my controller down here, so when I come down, I can look at it. I can come through the doors, look at the controller. I can come down from the workshop, look at the controller. Not really putting anything on this side, although I could just put something else like a controller on this side if I really wanted. And I'm going to put an output tap at some point on here as well, to output into a Flux network around here somewhere. But we'll work on that after as well. This is the main part though. We've now got this large area, and it's a 9 by 9 interior. Okay, I want to use the innermost 3 by 3 square on side here, so that every direction away from it, it's got three blocks for cooling liquid. Now, most people will go with a standard kind of like a checkerboard design, and that seems to be where a lot of things are going wrong with people. People think that this is one of the most efficient ways because you can maximize the number of control rods that you're putting in that can be cooled on all sides. But it turns out that that's a theory that may be wrong. And by maybe, I mean probably, most likely. Now, there's no way that you can mess up a reactor. This will work fine, and it'll produce tons and tons of power. But if you compare it to a different design, it will not do that much better, if you know what I mean. It won't do better than an ergonomical design. Now, the most ergonomical design that I know of consists of having all of the control rods next to each other in the center here. What sacrilege, some of you might be thinking, and others might be going, oh yeah, actually, that makes sense. Now, if you're of the ones that think it makes sense, then you can look smug in the background while I explain it to the people who think that you have to do a checkerboard, Now, with this design as opposed to the checkerboard, these reactors are connected to each other, which means they are touching, and that creates a reaction in the mechanics of the reactor. When they don't touch, they don't have this reaction, but they encourage productivity from each other. So when one heats up, it helps heat the ones next to it. And when they're heating up, it helps heat the ones next to that. So the productivity of them all is better if they're touching. Okay? And then in the checkerboard design, you would get one coolant next to each side. when in actual fact, the coolant that we want to look at is out from the side. So that one coolant there, and what would be one coolant next to it on that side, and that side, would only cool it down by 4. And that's not great, right? If we have the coolant, down on the sides of it, going out 3, those 3 actually it's proven that those 3 cool the core down better than just 1 next to it. 3 next to it have a difference. And the fact that they only move in the cardinal direction. So I don't need anything in these corners. I can literally block these corners off and have nothing in them whatsoever. I don't need anything in those corners because it is only the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, that actually have any relevance to cooling the reactor down. And so I will probably fill these full of some block and have jellied cryotheum in the inside of these 3x3 areas on each of the reactors. Now, I want to set this running layer by layer. So, as we're doing it layer by layer, I'm going to do a 1-layer design first. So, on each of these, I'm going to put a control rod. I'm going to seal it all in with cryotheum inside and see how it goes with a 1-high structure, or 1-high internal structure. Okay, so from killing those blizz, we get blizz rods, which can be manually turned into blizz powder. Very simply, I'm just going to do it with a load of this, right? And then that blizz powder, combined with some snowballs and some other bits and pieces. Let's look at this with uses of this. Can be combined to make cryotheum dust. Okay, so some redstone and some snowballs. We'll throw that in there. We'll throw all of that in there as well. It's a cool graphical effect. Throw some of that in there and we'll make a stack of that. And then that will go into the magma crucible and melt the cryotheum dust down into a cryotheum thing. Oh, blazing pyrotheum is currently in there. I'm going to have to get rid of that first. I think I've got some buckets. I shall get the buckets of blazing pyrotheum out as soon as possible. And then this should sit in here, jellied cryotheum, and I should be able to take this out by the bucket load and go and fill up my reactor with it. Okay, need to be pretty careful when you're using this stuff, of course. Like with all liquids, they could be harmful to your health. They also, because it's so cold, it's like super coolant. Because it's so cold, it also generates snow around, which can be useful if you don't want to make the glacial precipitator. You can just make a snow machine and just make snowballs. But we don't want to do that. We're not doing that. So I need to place these across and clean this place up and put a lid on it all. So we're just doing the 1-high just as an experiment. That's still going to happen on the top. Look. Just as 1-high on this experiment with a 1 set of that and space in the corners. We're just going to iron block it off and put space in the corners. And we'll see what that reactor is running at and prove a theory. Okay, so the last few buckets are going in. It's taken a little bit of time to create, but with all the materials, it's not too big a deal. Mostly, I've been waiting around just a few minutes for this jellied cryotheum to create itself, yeah? Or be created by the machines. And now I can start sealing the last little bit in, and we should make a multi-block. Yes, immediately upon completion, a multi-block. And as you can see, it's just jellied cryotheum on the bits there between those. And this should now start kicking on to power. Let's see what we go up to. So, RF per tick, we're talking thousands of RF per tick, which is great already. And that's low temperature, which means that this is going to be a very fuel efficient, right? That is with whatever remnants of fuel was in there, because I haven't put any fuel in. So that's whatever remnants of fuel was in the reactor rods before. Not a lot. So that's 1,228 RF per tick with a real amazing amount of efficiency. An amazing amount of efficiency, because normally 0.2 or 0.3 would be an efficiency rating. This is 0.008 millibuckets per tick of waste. Fuel consumptions are burned up, which is great. So let's put the rest of that in there, right? So now with a full core, we can now generate much more. We're up to 13,000 already. 13,000 already. The energy buffer's filling up. the core temperature and everything's gone down, and this millibuckets per tick of wastage is still below 0.1. Alright, so while I'm making a slightly large amount of gelid cryothium as a supply, we need to think about what we're going to do, because if I break this reactor now, I'm going to lose all that power. So I'm going to go with a Flux Networks. Flux Networks is supposed to be very, very simple, and I believe it is. Let's start with the very basics. So it's Gargantuan Flux Storage, Herculean Storage, and Basic Storage. We've already received a few of these as quest rewards. We've not really looked into how to use them yet. So let's start by having a look at the basic storage. Flux blocks and glass panes. Easy. And then those ones are those 6 of those. Okay, so let's see if we can make 6 of those. I don't believe so. Look, we don't have any of these flux blocks. What are these flux blocks? Oh, here's where it gets interesting. Flux, obtained by throwing redstone into lava. In fire or lava. Okay, so I can cook redstone and make Flux. It doesn't say I can do it in a crucible, so I don't think that's going to be a case. I could throw it into lava or fire, so I may as well just cook it, to be fair, wouldn't I? May as well just cook it. So redstone to Flux is a thing, and then the Flux blocks can be crafted like that, yeah? So the other component that we need for the Flux blocks are these Flux cores, which require Eye of Enders. So it's quite a complicated high-tier supply, but then you would expect it to be, really, wouldn't you? So do I have enough Ender Pearls? Let's make a stack of Eyes of Ender, and let's hope that we've got enough to do some of these, and enough Obsidian. And let's do a stack of those, because why not? And then we can do a stack of those when we've got enough of this stuff. So I'm going to cook a couple more stacks of redstone in some furnaces and get some more of that made up to get the first basic tank made, so that we can then start using the ones that we got out of the quest book as a bit of a simpler solution. And we'll get some more of this on the go as well while we're at it. Awesome. Alright, so it's not that hard to make them. Once you've got all those little component parts together and sorted out, you can make them, and then you can easily make the Herculean storage. So I've made one of those. Well, I've actually got one that I've got as a reward as well, so there's 2 of those that I've got ready. But in order to send stuff to and from them, I need a plug and a point. A plug is for adding to the network, which is simply one of those and a few of those cores. So we get a plug to add from the reactor, and we've got this which then removes it from the network onto other machines and the like. So I'll have a couple of those as well while I'm at it, shall I? And then we can use this, I think we can use this on the network stuff down here. So I've put that one down there. I can put this on the top here. Let's put that on there, right, and set this to the network. Now, you've set the network in here first, I believe. So I've set up Nemsun's network. This is Herculean storage number 1. And it should input and output right away. If I select a network, Nemsun's network there, it should receive. There we go. It's receiving from the big reactor. So the reactor should now be losing some of its energy. Or maybe not. Maybe it'll just keep producing energy faster than I can remove it. And then this Herculean storage should be adding power quite quickly. Look, rapid. And that doesn't need any kind of like a connection to it. It's just wireless. It's Flux network wirelessness. So then we can put that onto the network, and that can be storage 2. So these are both filling up almost as fast as each other. So this might be able to output as fast as it possibly can and fill both up. Which means this is now making a backup of all this power that's in here. There we go. It's now reducing all this power down. I've taken the fuel out, so there's no more fuel in there. We haven't had any waste yet either. So I'm taking the fuel out, and that's then just going to process the rest of this at this amount per tick and transfer it almost as fast as it's producing into these Herculean Flux storage. And once those are full, then I can think about breaking it a little bit. I just didn't want to waste all of that power. So new test, I want to test out how my reactor works with the cryothium all running from the top places. So we'll place a block there, and we'll place a piece of cryothium there, and then we'll just basically knock that on the head. Oh, it sinks down, okay? So if I place enough buckets of cryothium on the top here, they will all just sink down into the reactor and sink into the nearest available space. Yeah, so we got this, that, and the other, and then that falls down onto that block there. And then if I remove that block, they will just stay as a stack in the middle there. Now all I've got to do is try and figure out how to get the rest of the cryothium down the sides of it. And I suppose that's just simply a case of grabbing a bucket full and putting it down the side, like so. Well, I can put it on the sides here. Yeah, I'll just put it on the sides here, and it will fill up every aspect of it quite quickly because it sinks, as all liquids should, of course. That is now every single part of this is filled in with jetted cryothium. All nice and full, and should make a nice big reactor multi-block structure, and when I turn it on, we should see huge amounts of efficiency. Huge amount of efficiency. Now, I did a little test with only half the amount of cryothium in, i.e. I filled, out of the 4 sections I was filling, I only filled 2 sections and didn't really fill it all. And the same efficiency was recorded. Now, however, with the temperature down a little bit further, I have got slightly more power. From all that gelled cryothium, I've got slightly more power. Only by a little bit. So, the higher I made this, the bigger the amount of power I was going to get back from it. And the more fuel efficiency I was going to gain from it by putting them all together like in this format, gives us a nice good output. And speaking of output, there's the rubbish. 1 piece of this is rubbish out of the 2 stacks I've put in. Now that's got to be efficient, and we're full up here, and we've got 2 of these storage full up. All of this system's full up over here, and of course my mob farm will receive a flux point, and that will also be full up down there. So all in all, this is possibly all the power I'm going to need for a long time to come. But that, my good friends, is it for today's episode. That is all we've got time for, folks. Thank you very, very much for watching. I will be around with another episode and the start of some new series as well coming soon. Stoneblock is starting to get grindy. It means that there's less progression, which means that I need to let the base create and craft and do things for me if I'm going to do things legit. So I'm going to leave things running here for a little bit and go off and do some other projects. And I will see you in the next episode. Don't forget to click all the links below. I will see you very soon for some more. Goodbye.